Welcome to Influential Visions. Here, we interview futuristic leaders who share their deep industry knowledge and business experience with you, ensuring you have your finger on the pulse and your eyes wide open. My name is Nathaniel Schooler, and I am your host today. Well, this meeting's being recorded, and
thank you.
This is Melissa Gonzalez. She's CEO of the Lionesque Group, and now you're also principal of MG2 because you merged. So that's pretty cool, right? And yeah, we met over in Las Vegas, didn't we, with IBM Think, right? I think that, or was it Think Marketing? I don't know. Was that when Will Smith stood up and
yes,
it was hilarious, right? I still have that video. It was crazy.
It was good. He was great. And it was okay to be in Vegas. One day we'll be back.
It was good. It was good. We had a good meal, nice conversation with all the guys, all the other people that IBM invited, and learned a lot of cool stuff. Brian Eisenberg taught me how to write a book in the space of 5 minutes. The book outline, in literally 5 minutes flat. And I was like, exhausting. It's exhausting, but he showed me how to do it, and it's crazy, right? So if anyone's thinking about writing a book, let me know. I might be able to send you his 4 things you got to get in there.
There you go. There we go.
Yeah, but today we're here to talk about the future of retail, because I know you're a retail expert, and we're here to talk about the new consumer behaviors in bricks and mortar and loads of other stuff around that, right? So it's a crazy time right now. I know you're over in New York, aren't you? So, in England, it's much the same. It's pretty crazy. I mean, we're not walking around with bazookas in the street, but,
Yeah, that's not quite happening in New York City, but it is happening. It is happening in other parts of the country. So it's a little surreal.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, where do we start with all of this? I mean, the landscape, yes, it's going to change. Obviously, the behavior of people shopping is changing. It has changed, and it's, for the future, I think, from where I'm sitting, I mean, we're talking about, I was watching Facebook. I was looking at Facebook the other day, and I noticed in a city a town I used to live in Spain, they actually changed the regulations for the restaurants. So they said, well, actually, because of this social distancing, you can have some more space out in the street. Okay, so that is what's happening here. What's your view on that kind of thing, and the way people are going to move through stores?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you bring up restaurants. It's definitely been talk here, especially as we're approaching warmer weather. They'll increase outdoor dining, closing down streets, and allowing for social distancing. Well, some people prefer to call it physical distancing because we're still being social, but we're being physically distant. And so we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think there's a lot of measures that are happening in these first rounds of openings here in the U.S. It's been staggered with openings. Georgia, Texas, Florida, a number of states already opened. Another wave are starting to open. New York's probably lagging most. I wouldn't say all, but most. But we definitely, New York, New Jersey area kind of hit the hardest in the U.S. So you can understand the caution. Plus, we're the most dense. You think of the way we commute with public transportation, all of that stuff. There's other complexities that happen in our cities and state over here. But the first round is definitely about safety measures and wearing masks, wearing gloves. There's a lot of kind of controversy on if they can mandate that you wear a mask. Employees need to, but consumers, it's a different ballgame. Some have taken the stance of you don't wear one, you can't come in. And there's been some retaliation for that, unfortunately. So it's interesting because no matter what safety measures are put in place, it's really at the mercy of how people respond to those measures, since some of them are an actual law. Physical distancing is one that people are upholding. So that's 6 feet. You're seeing a lot of signage kind of directing wayfinding. So single, one-way aisles, physical distancing, a lot of plexiglass or sneeze guards at checkout. There's been some implementation of that in the dressing room. I know Suit Supply, there's an image that circulated about they were approaching it. And a lot of stuff's happening in Asia first for those that do have locations there. So while not all consumers behave the same across the world, there are some learnings that people are leaning upon. I would say one of the more challenged ones is temperature checks. You know, a lot of them are requiring them for employees, but it's a little trickier for consumers. If you can imagine masks being complicated, temperature checks, a lot of people feel our invasion of privacy. So, you know, it's a tricky thing, but everybody's leading with safety first in this first round of openings. And then it's really to learn, listen, learn, and iterate as much as possible. You know, for those that are hoping to have, you know, positive response, it's really going to have to be a concerted effort to layer in brand on top of safety measures so that it doesn't feel clinical and alarming and scary when you're entering a space or approaching a space, even if it's curbside. They've got to find those ways that it feels okay still. You know, if there's areas to add surprise and delight in a tasteful way, you know, there is good messaging that could be shared. There are things that, you know, can be layered in. So I think it's early days to figure a lot of that out, but they're trying to work that in right now. And since it's such early stages, it's a little bit difficult. But I'm even starting to see it on the grocery level. Like, you know, when I go to the grocery store, you've even seen that evolve over the past couple of weeks, and how they're handling it. They're on the front lines, right? So a lot of us can watch what supermarkets as an industry has done because they've been the one dealing with it head on, you know, this whole entire time.
Yeah, I've been watching, and I mean, I think just something as simple as, you know, perhaps having one area in the shop which, you know, you go through the shop, and you're in a bit of a panic, aren't you? I mean, the whole way that you go shopping now has changed, and you know, and I think actually the flow of people is much slower, which is a good thing, because we were all rushing around chasing our tails anyway, right? I mean, that was kind of where it was. But I've noticed that I've been shopping in a shop called Lidl, which is a big supermarket. It's a new.
Oh, we have that here at LIDL, right?
Yeah. Cool,
yep.
cool. So I've been shopping there, and I was shopping in Aldi, but I just they opened a new Lidl store, which was much bigger. So the bigger store for me is a lot safer. I make sure that I change the time that I shop. So like I go first thing in the morning, I'm there before it opens. Like I'm in the queue. I'm probably 10 people from the front of the queue. As soon as it opens, you know, we go in within 10 minutes and I'm out by 9:20 in the morning. But that's me. So I feel sorry for the people who can't get there at that time. But I think the way that they're going to be monitoring what's on the shelf, where it is in the store, what products are where, and moving them around to make the flow easier, because like they're going to monitor the flow, right? I mean, it's not rocket science, is it? But it's data, So, you know,
for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. That's when all this technology comes into play finally. It's not new. That technology existed to enable most of the things that you just spoke about, inventory management, shelf management, dynamic pricing, all of that stuff. And so now you're kind of seeing the accelerated adoption of it. And pricing will still matter, and not every retailer is, you know, created equal, and that they can't integrate all of it. But what's nice is there's a pretty concerted effort. And I've been speaking to a lot of tech CEOs, and how do we kind of help the ecosystem here? Because there was a number of reasons why technology hadn't been adopted more broadly. One is, will consumers use it, right? And we're kind of checking the box on that right now, especially when it comes to like contactless payments or order ahead and things like that. Shopping online in general, you're seeing, I mean, across demographics, you're seeing not just Gen Z or Gen Y, you know, or millennials adopting technology. Like my mom's using it, you know, my mom downloaded her first AR app on Madison Reed to figure out her perfect hair color and order hair dye, and trying to figure out how to do it at home, you know? So they have new customer, right? And she's, you know, mid 60s. And so there's an interesting adoption curve. More and more people are shopping grocery grocery online, especially the older demographic that's like, I don't want to deal with this if I don't have to.
Hmm.
So we're checking the box on that, but we cost will still matter. And the IT needs will still matter, right? How do we integrate this? And so it's good to see some of that ecosystem coming together, and technology companies saying we understand and they need to make it a little bit more accessible. It was a little fragmented with a lot of it. They would sell hardware to a reseller market, and then a consultant would have to work with that reseller, and then they'd have to figure out the right software platform to contextualize the data, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's still a few steps coming together. I think a lot of the bigger guys who were already kind of implementing BOPIS and curbside and stuff like that, they kind of
That's buy online, pick up in store, right?
buy
For
online,
people
pick up.
who don't
Yes,
know.
buy online, pick up in store, or buy online, ship to store. Like there's a lot of acronyms for sure.
Yeah.
3 to 5 letter acronyms right now, but a lot of those behaviors. So it's interesting. You talk more on the B2B side, but getting notifications to restock shelves, or pricing on shelves, or a lot of that is kind of like getting to the forefront right now, which is exciting, and it's an interesting thing because it's also going to evolve how companies operate. And I think you're going to see a lot of internal reorg charts happening, because it's going to require a little bit of a shift in skill sets as well.
Yeah. I think it's actually something that really has been needed in a long time anyway. The way that we were running around, rushing, not having any time to speak to people, not having any time for ourselves, something needed to change anyway in my mind. And
That's definitely the silver lining, right? There's a lot of
yeah.
things that feel scary, and the things are surreal, and you're like, this, we know it's temporary. But I remember before we made the decision to go strictly remote, which was mid-March, I was gearing up to head to Shop Talk. I was gearing up to go to a store opening in Seattle and straight to Shop Talk. And I was mentally preparing myself to be away from home for over a week, and, missing my 4-year-old daughter and all these things. And it felt like a lot. We were dealing with, the Lionesque group had just merged with MG2. And so we were dealing with that, integration. And I was dealing with travel, and I was dealing with really long days. And, it was almost like this part of the pause felt good, even though, we're finding our way in this new norm. But it was like, wow, I'm getting to know my daughter a little more, and I'm seeing this magical side of her. Not always easy, but mostly good side of her. I organized my sock drawer. Just like things, little things in
Yeah.
life that it's letting you do. So that part's kind of the nice part of it, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's something that is just, it's actually quite exciting in many ways, because it's pushed the adoption of digital transformation to the people who were like, oh, let's do it next year. Yeah. Because there were loads of these people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately they've been forced to do it. Right. And it's like, well, actually, if we look at the way things are going anyway, or they were heading, with augmented reality for clothing, for example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of potential developments in that area, for certainly for, clothes, sizing, for example. Yeah. I don't know. I know that this new normal isn't normal. So it's like, well, where is it gonna head? I mean, I don't think anybody really knows. Yeah. That's the biggest worry. Yeah.
We don't know 100%. I mean, I would say the long-term normal is probably not walking around with masks and gloves and getting your temperature checked and all of that. So that's the temporary safety measures. And the new normal, I do think that our fluidity with technology as consumers will not go backwards, right? And understanding like I can operate across channels and across devices, albeit my iPad, my phone, my laptop, and a store. And so it is going to push retailers and brands to have to, like we've talked about omnichannel forever, but it's really, this unified commerce experience and really understanding that at some point, it doesn't matter to me what channel I'm operating on. I just expect you to deliver. And so that part is going to be heightened for sure. And I think that, yeah, there's certain things that will be prioritized still over others, but at least in the US, the ability to do order ahead and curbside and all of that is going to be pretty expected, especially for the larger retailers, because, everybody's so used to it. I think it's going to impact the way in which stores merchandise what's in store versus what's online, and really make them think in a more curated way. Like there's going to be those utility-based products that probably don't need as much shelf space, that click and collect could really solve for that. And then there's those that are going to need greater explanation and play and experimentation, and those probably are the ones. I think it's also going to be interesting too, because it makes you question the split between front of house, back of house, because it's the experiential side, right? But then there's a logistical side of being able to capture those order ahead, fulfill it in an efficient way. Like a lot of the things that technology gives us are efficiencies, but they're not efficient if they don't operate seamlessly. So there's going to be, a number of things to kind of relook and reorganize.
Yeah. I've been giving this a lot of thought with Amazon opening the stores without any people in. So you go in with your phone and blah, blah, blah. So then it redefines the whole thing. I mean, you're going to have to stock up that store, right? When there's no one in there. Yeah. Then you're not going to need to have people at risk in the store of, potentially getting these sorts of diseases and bugs in the future, right? Like that's the potential for the future. If we have if we accelerate maybe 2 years or 3 years down the line, the future of retail could end up being that, right? I mean, to prevent problems with dispatch of goods,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another example where it's going to let's see how accessible they make it, because those stores are pretty expensive to build. But I know that they are making their technology a bit more accessible, and there's been a number of startups and other firms that have been developing this type of technology, like, the Amazon Go type technology. So it will be interesting. I think, you brought up AR before as well, with beauty and things like that. As a category, it's been super intuitive, right? That mirroring the play. And, I think we did a pop-up with Sally Hansen back in 2015 where they unveiled an augmented reality app. And a lot of it made sense intuitively because, as a woman, that was an augmented reality app where you could go in and it would scan the pigmentation color of your skin, and it would virtually paint your nails, and you could see if it was a color you liked. And, that's one of the pain points when you're a woman trying nail polish. You have to put it on, you have to take it off, right? So it solved for that. And so makeup, right, is super intuitive. So I could see all these colors on my skin. And, it definitely depends how well each company makes it to actually match the pigmentation color of not only my skin, but the product itself. So it's as realistic as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think, so that category, I think is going to continue to see that adoption of AR because it's so intuitive to the way in which a consumer would interact. But the apparel category is a little trickier. And I feel like, but the dressing room is going to need a big solving, because if you think about it from a hygiene standpoint, that's probably one of the second areas that gets questioned a lot is like, I'm trying on all these clothes that somebody else just put on. And right now what they're doing in the US, and I'm not sure if it's being handled the same there, is they're putting in measures where if you try on something, then they're taking it off the floor from anywhere for 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. So then the stock holding is gonna go up, right? I mean, but the thing is I was looking to buy a pair of glasses, yeah, and I looked online, right? I mean, I got a pair of glasses, right? I went into the store in the end and bought a pair of Tommy Hilfigers, yeah, okay, for reading.
They look good.
Thank you. I think they're
Yeah.
quite cool. They kind of go with my blue kind of theme that I've got going on.
You should, you should wear them.
They're cool. I do sometimes, but I think so. I was like, okay, so how am I going to do that? So I had a look online, and I took a picture, and I messed around, and I put my, and I looked at all these applications, and it was just like, actually, going in the store was much easier because the technology is not there yet, right? Not that I could see. So from a design point of view, once someone gets the glasses, and they get that right, then they can take that tech and get the clothes right, or they can do it the other way around, But at the moment, unless you prove me wrong, you probably know something that's out there that actually is really amazing, but I don't know anyone that's got that right yet. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, we actually did a pop-up with a company, called Fit Match at the end of last year in Texas. And they do the body scan. So they actually create a 3D avatar of your body. And there's been a lot of talk about this, the body scanning and stuff. And I think that's another area that didn't see wide adoption. But what's interesting is when we did the pop-up in Texas, 80% of people that came in did the body scan. And they couldn't believe how easy it was. Took 3 minutes, I believe. And to me, that's an interesting thing because it gives you more confidence to shop if you know, okay, this is how this brand will fit my body, etc.
Wow.
So that's one that I know, it's good time for them to kind of open those conversations up with brands right now as they're trying to figure out. So your dressing room experience becomes just about you. You go in, you get that scan done, and then you go to a digital screen and it'll show you this is how these outfits will fit you.
Super. And then you could also have the technology rank the coolness of your, like, or the professionalism, or certain categories. It could
I like that.
Yeah, it's simple, right? So that's quite exciting, actually, and potentially. So then the size of the stores become much smaller. You basically go in there. You probably get a mix with a smaller group of friends than you did before. To minimize your risk of these sorts of problems, because I think people have been affected mentally permanently from this. Certainly. Obviously there are going to be some people that don't really, that are not that fast. But I think for me, I think having a smaller bunch of friends that I spend time with is probably safer for me than going out and meeting a bigger, wider group of people. So the whole way in which we're going to move around and we're going to shop, and the localized purchasing as well is that I'm super interested in, actually, as well.
Yeah, I do think there's going to be a move to supporting local even more. I think there's going to be a mix. There's going to be the mass retailers that people still gravitate to. I mean, if you think about what stayed open here, it is the mass, right? It's Costco and it's BJ Wholesale and it's like the big box guys. But on the flip side, I do think I want to support local, one, because I want to keep those businesses alive. And you're seeing a lot of kind of a commitment to that. And then also, at some point we'll go back, right? And things will slowly become closer to what they were as we get a vaccine and all those things. Just like history repeats itself, right? We got past polio, we got past things like that. But it is making us more aware, probably, of hygiene and germs and how things are transmitted. I mean, we have so much access to information now, some of which are more accurate than other, but still, it's in our face all the time. You go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're being inundated with all this information about the risk. So I do think it'll shape behaviors. One of the things too, that from a design side we've been talking about, and I do think it has a decent amount of figuring out still, somewhat because of cost, but it's also going to be interesting to see how the materiality of things change in store design. There's a lot of conversations around antimicrobial surfaces and how do we integrate more of that and be mindful of that as we're thinking of stores in the future too.
I mean, there are also, I think there are potentially like some UV lights that can actually kill a lot of these bacteria. I was talking to a gentleman last year about some lights that he basically sells as part of his company. And you know, I think once we work out how we can actually disinfect these surfaces, I think the future of like coffee shops and the future of these kind of places is going to become super, super clean. Yeah. But you know, it's how quickly we can actually take care of that. Yeah. And minimize that risk. Yeah. You know,
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting thing because right now people are just in damage control a little bit and survival mode, and
yeah.
businesses are down on average, right? So it's how much reinvestment dollars do you have? But as we kind of get closer back to normal, I think the priority will be a lot more remodels before rebuild, right? Taking those existing environments and just rethinking them from the outside in, rethinking the material from the outside, rethinking, the parking lot. What does that experience look like if we're doing more curbside, right? What does the storefront window look like? What does it communicate if there's that dual purpose of the store as a fulfillment center and cash and carry? And what does it look like? Some might go as far as like to do Windows Flex, from storytelling opportunities to pickup, like not so much a drive through, but right, we might want to think of some of those aspects of it as investment dollars. How do we rethink the cash wrap experience if more people are paying through their phone? Is it a little bit more like the Apple Store? Is it, how does it flex between those that want to do self-checkout and those that want an assisted checkout, but necessarily as fragmented as, a supermarket has like self-checkout, and right, they're two separate experiences. Like, how do we create it so maybe it's just a little bit more flexible, and probably checkout, won't take as much as a footprint. And I think you're already starting to see that with shoppable showrooms in the past year or two. The split between front of house, back of house, having a little bit of a relook. Dressing rooms, as you just said, right? So I think like there's a lot of aspects of just stepping back and reassessing customer journey, because it's not going to be 100% the same anymore.
Yeah. The flow is totally changed, right? And it's slowed right down. Like, you used to whiz around, yeah, and you could run back and grab something, and then, but now people give you funny looks if you go the wrong way, right? Like, what are you doing? You're going the wrong way. It's like, well, there are no arrows. Like, what what do you want me to do? I forgot my pasta. Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And that kind of stuff hopefully will work itself out in the future for sure. But communication is so important. It's more important than ever right now. Wayfinding signage, that's the thing. That's the kind of stuff that helps you feel comfortable and safe. Like, okay, you know which direction to go, right? If this is a one-way aisle or not. Even more important, probably signage that makes sure you understand what's in each aisle. So all of that, but
Yeah.
also, like I said in the beginning, it has to be done too in a way that still feels okay. Like, they can't do it in a way that feels so alarming that you feel icky
Yeah.
while you're in that moment of shopping. Because retail is an emotional experience. It's supposed to feel good. You're getting gratification,
Yeah.
right? And so how do you keep people feeling safe but still getting the positive aspects of what a retail experience should feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I think we never had the spray, antibacterial spray in England, yeah, any supermarkets, right? So when I went out to America, I went to Oracle Open World last year, right? Like in October or whatever. And I went and stayed with my sister in Hollywood. She lives in Hollywood, and we went into Trader Joe's, yeah. And my sister was like spraying the trolley handle, like wiping it down. And I'm like, what? Like, we don't do that in England, right? So like, this thing has now come over to here, yeah. But it's like, I mean, I remember quite fondly going to Singapore when I was like in my 20s, when I went around the world, yeah. And it's so clean, yeah. It's crazy, like, it's so clean. And I think it wouldn't do anyone any harm to actually clean up these things. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, come on, like, this should have been happening anyway, right?
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
definitely makes you think that. I mean, even at home, I'm like, wow, I should have been cleaning my house a little more probably too. You're sitting at home more noticing like, oh, there's more dust bunnies than I thought when 2 days go by. but it's true. We, you know, you hear like notifications like, oh, the New York City subway, we're going to be cleaning it daily. And it's like, why weren't we doing that before? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And also the amount of people that were sleeping rough in the subway, right? Like that was crazy. Yeah. Like I was hearing about that. And yeah, it's I mean, you know, people have got to get to work, right? Like that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
achieve, yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, actually, we're redefining what work looks like as well. We're
Yes.
redefining hours, yeah. Like when do you work, yeah? Like how do you get there? Like you know, the whole thing is quite bizarre to sit back in my office here and think about it. It's just weird. Like I mean, I've worked from home for 10 years, yeah. You know, you're lucky if you get me to go to an event because I'm too busy, yeah. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it definitely it's illustrative to people, work from home is possible. And I do think that is going to reshape how people think of office space. I mean, that's definitely a category that's getting a relook as well, which is kind of a little outside our conversation of retail. But if you look at all the co-working spaces, if you look at, you know, the open work desk, like a lot of are being reshaped over the past couple years. I mean, I come from Wall Street before retail, so I always had an open floor environment, but a lot of that's going to be we looked at and saying like, okay, how much is essential to come in? Does everybody need to come in every day? How do we stay productive? To be honest, as much as our economy has been hit, like it's think of what a saving grace in other aspects it's been that we could do Zoom and we could do this and the world didn't completely stop. Like 30 years ago, if this happened, we would have been in a much different place. Like, you
Yeah.
know, we weren't right. So so it is making people rethink and understand, okay, maybe it wasn't that wasn't the only way things could be done. And let's figure out how we get back. Yeah, it's going to be another way that's different. We might not need, you know, 50,000 square foot office space. Maybe we could do it in half that. And, you know, employees come in for town halls or something like that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I personally do see the shift in the size of business, the physical space that a business needs. I think you know if you actually look at the offices and say, well, we're not going to need like 80% of these offices, yeah. So it's all they're going to shrink the size of these offices, yeah. Um, Permanently, so then people are going to have places to live. I think retrofitting is going to happen a lot more in offices. I think shopping centers are going to close down and become housing. I can really see that certainly in the UK,
And
because
it will be interesting to that point, like how does residential evolve?
yeah, how do we redefine like what's actually going on here? I mean, at the moment we've got a lot of hotels that are letting homeless people stay there, yeah. So people without homes, like
Mhm.
I think are you doing that in New York as well? I'm sure I
We're
heard
also
something.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also it's become homes for a lot of frontline workers. So, you know, those that are doctors and nurses, and it's safer for them not to stay home with their families. They're giving them free hotel rooms.
Yeah, yeah. It's but New York has got some of the best data science people in all of the cities in terms of the way that they collect data. I know that there's a data led approach, and you're the only city, I believe, that's like releasing all of the data publicly. I'm sure that's what I was reading. Like the CDO of New York, you know, government was doing that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it across the country, but I would say that you know, our Governor Cuomo and like, there's definitely been a dedicated approach to communication over here and letting us know when, you know, when antibody tests come or when, you know, what does testing look like? How are percentages changing? So yeah, there's definitely been as much as it could be, I think, an open line of communication around that. All data still has to be contextualized. So, you know, we don't 100% have the full look at it, but yeah, I think so. And it's going to be interesting because we're 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 more closely approaching our first round of openings too. And I know that they're kind of hoping they're looking to stagger it in different, you know, essential businesses, low risk, then essential businesses, higher risk, then non-essential, low risk, then non-essential, high risk. So those are the stages that, we had heard through. And I do think that, I'm pretty sure curbside and, that kind of pickup will be the first sort of format that'll open. And then we'll kind of go, and then restaurants are definitely, takeout. And as they think about dining, they're looking at outdoor spaces.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's going to be interesting is the design functions of these big stores, and like the outside space is going to have to dramatically change to perhaps prepare for queues outside. Yeah, I think they're going to be more queues.
Queue management's going to be so important, especially that's why, a lot of these things are, technology will allow us to, you can order ahead and all of this other stuff, but it's not convenient to consumers if it's not well managed. So we've been actively trying out a lot of queue management apps too for our clients, and like, okay, this is how this whole streamlined approach can work well. And these are the ones that are most frictionless and, easy for a consumer to get.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely brilliant speaking with you. I've really enjoyed it. It would be great to speak for a bit longer, but I've got another meeting in 5 minutes, so I'm really sorry.
Well, you're a busy guy, so
it's like crazy. Like really, I've got like so many podcasts today. It's crazy. Yeah. So
the more we work from home, the busier we are. So, as much as employers might worry, like, oh, work from home, it's like, actually, I think people work harder.
Yeah, I think they do. And I think it's something, you can take away a lot of lessons, a lot of information from this episode. And if people want to reach out to you, they just look up Melissa Gonzalez, CEO of the Lionesque Group, and they can find you, right? And I'll drop a link to your LinkedIn or something at the bottom of this. So thank you. It's been
thank you.
Great. Thanks for listening. Please make sure you share this episode with your friends and business connections too. And don't forget to drop us a review wherever you listen. Thank you.